All right, let's jump right in. Every single project you run is, and I mean this, a potential goldmine of information. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's where all the hard-won wisdom is forged. The problem, for most companies, all that gold just gets left behind the second a project wraps up. Well, today we're going to fix that. We are going to break down one of the most powerful yet almost always overlooked processes in project management: manage project knowledge. And we're going to do it like a top-tier consultant would, turning a dry process into a clear, actionable guide for unlocking your team's genius.
But seriously, just stop and think about that for a second. That amazing team you had, the one that spent months, maybe even years, solving impossible problems, they just disband. They move on. So what happens to all those brilliant insights? You know, the clever workarounds that saved you at the last minute, or the near disasters that taught you a lesson you'll never forget. All that stuff, it just vanishes. It evaporates into thin air. That knowledge, that intellectual capital, literally walks out the door. This isn't a small problem. It's a massive hidden cost in pretty much every organization out there.
And that leads us right to the core issue we're here to solve today. I like to call it the project brain drain. And think of it as a kind of corporate amnesia. And the symptoms? Oh, they're probably all too familiar. You see new teams making the exact same mistakes previous teams made. Project kickoffs feel like you're starting from absolute zero every single time. And you get that nagging feeling of déjà vu when a problem pops up that you know someone somewhere in the company has already solved. It's this painful cycle of relearning lessons you've already paid for in time and money. So here's the bottom line. Every time a project ends without a solid system to capture and share its wisdom, your organization gets a tiny bit dumber, a little bit slower. You were basically paying tuition for the same class over and over and over again. So this process, manage project knowledge, it isn't just some bit of bureaucracy from the PMBOK guide. No, it's your strategic defense against this constant loss of value. It's the system that turns your team's experience into a real, reusable asset.
Okay, so if we're going to build that defense, we have to do what any good consultant does first. We have to break the problem down. We have to get really clear on what it is we're even talking about. So, what is project knowledge? Because it's not just a big pile of reports and spreadsheets. To really get a handle on it, you've got to understand that it comes in two very, very different flavors.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. On one hand, you've got explicit knowledge. This is the easy stuff, the know what. It's your project plans, your documents, your final reports. You can write it down, you can save it to a server. Most companies are okay at this. But the real gold, the secret sauce, is the other kind, tacit knowledge. This is the know-how. It's that gut feeling your senior engineer has about where a bug is hiding. It's the intuition of your project manager to know a stakeholder is getting nervous way before they even say anything. You can't just write this stuff down in an email. It's the magic that really drives success, and a truly great knowledge system has to manage both.
Which brings us to the official definition. Now let's unpack this for a second. Notice the two key verbs here: using existing knowledge and creating new knowledge. Using is all about not starting from scratch. It's about tapping into the company's past wins and, just as importantly, its past failures. Creating is about recognizing that every single project is a chance to learn something new. See the cycle? You use the past to do better today, and you capture what you learned today to make the future even better. That right there is how the best organizations learn, adapt, and just plain win.
So let's see how this actually works. The best way to think about this whole process isn't as some boring checklist you have to tick off. Think of it as a dynamic engine. It's a machine that's always running in the background of your project, constantly taking in the raw fuel of daily experience and refining it into the high-grade horsepower of organizational wisdom.
And here's a look under the hood. It's a pretty simple three-stage process. First, the engine needs fuel, right? Those are your inputs. We're talking project plans, documents, sure, but also things like team chat logs or notes from retrospectives. Second, you've got the machinery itself, the tools and techniques. This is the real core of it, where people are actually sharing and creating the knowledge. And third, you get the outputs. And this isn't just some dusty archive. It's actionable intelligence. It's stuff that helps you make better decisions and build up a library of assets for the whole company. Now let's get into the toolkit, starting with the tools for that tricky tacit knowledge. You'll notice the common thread here is that it's all about human interaction. You can't put a gut feeling in a spreadsheet. You can't email intuition. You share it through storytelling when a senior team member explains why they made a tough call. You transfer it through work shadowing when someone new gets to see how an expert really handles things. These aren't just fluffy team-building exercises. They are absolutely essential for passing on that high-value know-how. And then you have the tools for explicit knowledge. These probably look a lot more familiar. Your SharePoint sites, your wikis, your project management software. The key here is to treat them like a living library, not a digital graveyard where documents go to die. But hang on a second. Look at that very last item on the list, the Lessons Learned Register. It's kind of thrown in there, but let me tell you, this little guy is the central gear in our entire engine. It is so important and so misunderstood that we need to give it a section all its own.
Okay, listen up. If you take away only one single thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. We are about to bust the biggest myth in project knowledge management. Most project managers, even really good ones, think of lessons learned as that boring document you fill out at the very end of a project. You're in a rush, you just want to get it done to check a box for the PMO. That approach is not just wrong, it's a massive missed opportunity.
I mean, the PMBOK guide itself calls this out, and for good reason. Treating lessons learned as some kind of project autopsy is like trying to learn how to swim after you've already drowned. It's just too late. The context is gone, people's memories are fuzzy, and the key players have probably already moved on to other things. A report written months after an event happened isn't learning, it's archaeology. The real value is in learning while you're still in the water.
So we have to completely rethink what this tool is. It is not a report, it is not a formality. It has to be a dynamic, living logbook for your project's journey. Think of it like your team's shared brain, a real-time journal where you capture the challenges and the breakthroughs the moment they happen.
And this shows you exactly how simple it is. Day one of the project, you create the register. Then you just make it a habit. A simple 5-minute item on your weekly meeting agenda. Hey team, anything for the lessons learned register this week? So when something big happens, a surprise problem, a great piece of feedback from a client, an unexpected risk, you log it, right then and there. By the time the project ends, you don't have to scramble to remember what happened 6 months ago. You have this rich, detailed story that can be immediately finalized and shared to help the next project start off even stronger.
All right, we've diagnosed the problem of the brain drain. We've defined the two kinds of knowledge. We've taken apart the engine that processes it all, and we've totally reframed its most important tool. So now, let's put it all together. Here's the consultant's final deliverable, a simple 3-step playbook you can start using tomorrow.
Here it is. It's that simple. Step 1, and this is by far the most important, build trust. You can have the best tools in the world, but they're useless if your team is afraid to admit when something goes wrong. You have to create a no-blame culture. Step 2, use the right tools for the job. You need a mix. You need workshops and storytelling for that human tacit knowledge, and you need a well-organized system for your explicit facts. And finally, step 3, make learning a habit. Make that living lessons learned register part of your team's weekly rhythm, not a chore you do at the end.
So, I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. Your last big project. What's the one brilliant insight or the one painful mistake that if your organization forgets it, it'll absolutely cost you time, money, or your reputation down the line? Whatever your answer is, that's the first entry in your new lessons learned register. Go write it down. Share it with someone. That one simple action is how you start to stop the brain drain. It's how you turn your organization from one that just finishes projects into one that actually learns from them.